Welcome back with a smiling face. Links to previous episodes are given in the video description, so don't forget to like, subscribe and share the video. Wolves of Shadowed Fate. Episode 26. Chapter 139 to 143. Aaron's POV. They brought vampires with them into my pack. I have fear for my children who were currently upstairs, and I am hearing some of them heading our way. Before I can even mind link them to stay upstairs, I see my two oldest sons come down to the landing. They froze at seeing Raven standing next to their mother. They had never been told that their mother had a twin, and the shock of seeing someone that looked almost exactly like her had them stop and do a double take. I moved closer to the stairs to try to protect them by stopping them from coming down the next set of stairs. I do not know these men and women at all, and our children are defenseless against them. No one is here to harm you. They are actually here to protect you. You need a vampire, Aaron, to go against a vampire. We all thought it was best not to mention the vampires coming with us. We knew that after your experiences with them, you may be fearful about having them here. This is the only real way to get rid of a vampire issue. Plus, you will know why they are here, in just a few minutes. They are here to help you and your pack, Aaron. You need to be introduced to them. I think that you will be quite interested in who they actually are in relation to your vampire problem. They are more than what you think they are. I have known them for a long time, they are good and I trust them with my own family. Brandon stepped forward to speak to me. As he saw my movement to go and protect my sons from them, it was an automatic response. Trevor and Henry have a lot of curiosity for the vampires standing in their living room and do not seem to be afraid of them at all. They stepped the rest of the way down the stairs and headed right for them, as I was reaching out to stop them. Dad, we researched vampires, these are not the ones you need to worry about. Their eyes are yellow. That means that they drink from animals, or from blood bags. Not from people. They are safe, Trevor said, and Henry nodded in agreement. Are you sure? I asked them before I thought about it. I am quite sure. I offended their whole group, it was unintentional, but I was worried about my family. I don't see Brandon's children here to prove to me that they are safe to be around my children. I have never dealt with vampires, other than the ones who just showed up killing off pack members. That is all I have to go by right now, and all I know is that I cannot trust the ones who will be coming back to attack us and attempt to take Reagan. Your sons are correct. We do not feed from people. We run a business where people can donate blood, but we pay them to donate it. The blood gets tested, and if it is disease-free, they will be paid for the donation. It works for them, and us. We will drink from the bags, but not people. Your sons are very intelligent, their leader spoke. In his comment, he clearly complimented our children but called the rest of us who were scared of them out for our ignorance of that fact. That was embarrassing, but I was glad to hear that they were safer to have around. I just didn't know, I hadn't done research on them, and it is in my nature to want to protect my children. Oh, now you want to protect them, after what Eloise put them through. I heard my wolf, Roman, ask me through our link. Shut up, Roman, I get it, I just didn't know. I was wrong for allowing her the opportunity when I could tell what she was about from the moment Austin was born. I just never thought she would go that far. I answered him back through our link and then paid my attention back to our guests. I am sorry for offending you, and your people. I appreciate you coming here, especially not knowing us at all. I have never met or dealt with vampires before, only the 3 that showed up this week. I am sorry for my lack of knowledge of your people. I truly did not mean to offend any of you. I was only trying to protect my sons, I told them, and they nodded to me. It doesn't seem like I truly offended them. It seemed like they let it roll off of them, as I am sure I am not the only one to have made a careless comment about them. My name is Alexei, but you can call me Alex while we are here. I understand that when you haven't been around us, it can be scary. But you are all much safer now than you were, with us here. I know you have tried to prepare for their return, but the honest answer is you can't. You will need us to take care of the problem, and we will. I had Raven call earlier as I wanted to make sure that it was him. It appears that our half-brother Draven is the one here causing you problems. He has lied to you from the start. He had a mate, and he killed her, over 200 years ago. He has quite a violent temper. He probably saw your she-wolf and fell in love, or wanted her to make hybrids. He would sense the power you have, and he wants to create strong babies. He wants to have more control and power than he currently has and will do anything to make that happen. He is prone to doing exactly that, lying to get the upper hand. I will help you with this, as he is our problem as well. He is my and Anton's half-brother. Alexei motioned to another man near him, one who also had blonde hair and honey-colored eyes. Anton nodded and gave a slight bow toward me, and straightened back up. I cannot read any of them. I can tell that they are indeed killing machines. They all stood there tall, and confident as they looked around the room. They were sizing us up as well. They stood watching us as carefully as we were watching them. That seemed to shake Regan out of her frozen state, and she stepped forward and said, "I am sorry. I was caught off guard, I didn't know you were coming. Please have a seat and we can go over what we have been doing so far, and what we have settled on to do, for us to be as safe as we could be for the last few days." Regan brought them up to speed, and they nodded some at her choices that she had made and nodded at the stake ideas. They nodded at Trevor, who was proud that his idea had merit. They were surprised at our buying the swords. One of the women said, "They are very effective to remove heads, but you have to swing very hard with a sharp sword to be able to do that. It was smart on your part for you to think to incapacitate them before you attempted to remove their heads." There were a total of 5 male vampires, and 4 female vampires in their group. They all seemed to move with grace and looked fairly normal, and all were strangely attractive. Other than their paler skin tones, you would not know that they were vampires. The leader Alexei, his second was called Dmitri, but they don't call them that. Both men look very strong but are built more like a swimmer's build, rather than bulky with muscles like we are. We learned that they all live in the same coven and that they don't make up even half of it. Alexei and his brother Anton both had blonde hair and honey-colored eyes. Dmitri had dark brown hair and eyes that looked more yellow than golden. These 3 men were the biggest of the group. Ivan had brown hair and seemed to be younger than most of the group. Adrik had dark hair and the same yellow eyes. He was the quietest of the group and was still a fledgling. He had only been a vampire for about 10 years, and this seemed like his first big opportunity to participate in something like this. The 4 women were all beautiful, but their paler skin seemed to suit them better than it did the men. It gave them a more delicate look, whereas it had given the men a slightly unhealthy appearance, with them not being able to tan. The women all stood up to be introduced, and the one that had spoken earlier was introduced as being named Kira. She had long red hair, that she had fashioned into a long braid. Her black one-piece outfit made her seem like a total badass. She was not concerned about what they were about to be doing. She seemed rather bored with it all, like it was already done, and they could leave. Irina was next, and she was the shortest of all of them at either 5'7" or 5'8". She seemed fragile and delicate and smiled a lot, which put people at ease. Polina was the next woman in line, and she had brown hair. She had the same one-piece outfit on and she also seemed ready to fight. The last woman was the tallest, and she had long black hair, to her waist. Her pale face worked well with the black hair, and she was the tallest of all the women at 5'10". She was introduced as being named Nadia, and I had already seen some of the warriors from Bloodwalker checking her out. She ignored all of the looks in her direction. She was ready to get this over with too. I do not think that she is a big fan of werewolves, but she is not being rude, just quiet. Hearing that they were brothers to the vampire here causing problems made me feel better about this. Clearly, their brother was the problem child, and that was probably the reason that they would drop everything to come to help us. I am absolutely glad for their help. I heard more noises coming from the landing as Clive and Reagan's oldest, Tatiana, with her younger brother Atlas hot on her heels came flying down the stairs. I bet her older brothers told them that there were werewolves here and they wanted to see them too. Tatiana was not scared at all as she came down the stairs, just as bold as her mother. I see Clive give them both a look, probably telling them to be good but never stopping them from coming down. He just moved closer toward the vampires. He knew where they were going, straight up to the vampires, to get a look at them. I see the woman's mouth twitch almost in a laugh as Tatiana came right straight to them to introduce herself. She had no fear and even held her hand out to shake their hands. From the looks of it, they had never seen such a forward little she-wolf in their lives. She didn't seem to be worried about them at all. They were impressed by her boldness, as it was clear on their faces. They even introduced themselves to her, and Atlas, who stayed behind her, and didn't shake hands, but did want to meet them. "You do not fear us?" Nadia asked her when she got to the end of their line. "No, you do not drink from humans. You are the good vampires. Why would I be afraid of someone who is good?" Tatiana answered her back. Nadia gave a laugh at Tatiana's innocent, but truthful response, and said, "An excellent answer, but you must always be cautious, little one. Some can never be fully trusted." "I agree," Reagan said, and the room seemed to relax even more. When they were told how the pack had been split up into being secured in 3 areas, they nodded. "It is better to have only 3 places to guard, rather than 50. That was very smart on your part. What we will do, is have 2 guarding the hospital. We will send Nadia and Polina there, just in case they get in there. Kira and Irina will go to the pack house, in case one of them gets in there. Irina tends to make people feel more comfortable being around her than the other women. I will have Anton stay here in your home with you, Reagan. He will have the strength that you need to beat Draven, if he does manage to get past us, to get to you. The rest of us will be out there with Justin and Brandon. We will take care of whoever he comes with. He should not be able to get past us to leave your land. Draven is smart, but he will not know that we are here. The outcome is going to change for him and his people because of it. Our scent is masked, and he will not be expecting us. We need to make sure that Justin and Brandon take them out if they try to get away from us. I will tell you now, as soon as they are aware of our presence, they will be trying to escape. That is why we need to stay back until we have a count on exactly how many of them there are. We need to dispatch all of them tonight. They need to be neutralized here, and not allowed to escape. I am sure that you want the same thing, for them to never be able to return. I plan on us taking care of each one of them tonight, so you do not have to worry about them anymore. Anyone who comes running back out the way they came in, needs to be shot with the arrow. We need to dip the arrows in wolfsbane, as I know you have some, and it works on vampires too. It will take them down, and give us enough time to kill them, Alexei told us, and I feel a whole lot better he is here now. He is probably correct in his thinking that it takes a vampire to end a vampire. But I just want my pack to be safe from now on. I believe with their help we can make it through the night safely. One of the warriors from the Blood Walker pack, one of the men who had been eyeballing the female vampires, asked, "Don't the females need a male with them, at the pack house, and the hospital? Won't they be at risk of being attacked?" Laughter was heard from the group of vampires, and Alexei responded, "I am sorry for the laughter. It's just that they are almost more ruthless than we are. They will fit in better in the pack house and hospital because they are less threatening than we are to you." You were probably thinking the same thing yourselves. He was just the one to ask the questions on all of your minds. Do not worry about them, they will not be hurt, and it will be easier for your pack to stay calm with them being women. I brought 9 of us, we will be fine, even if he brings double digits, we have the element of surprise. He will most like have fledglings or neonates with him. They are newer vampires and are not as experienced in what needs to be done, as the rest of us. It is Draven himself that poses the most threat to you in this. He is our brother, and his mother was one of the few humans who could carry a baby for our father. He is strong, but nowhere near as strong as Anton and I are. He will probably come with more than half his coven as he has his sights set on your beautiful she-wolf here. He will want to take her, and he will come early, you were right to get prepared. If he gave you 3 nights, and he gave you the first night of peace, you will be wanting to catch up on your sleep tonight. You probably stayed up half of last night waiting for him to show up, so you didn't get much sleep. He is very intelligent to plan it out this way. After you got the first night off, he will come the second night, and you will have lowered your guard. It just makes sense, because you are exhausted from him coming this week, and then having to prepare for their return during the day. He hasn't been in California for over 100 years. We banished him for his actions. I am actually glad he is back, we need to end him. He is one of the reasons that vampires get a bad name, with what he and his coven does. The children edged even closer to the female vampires, even though they were warned that they were just as dangerous, and Alexei's smirk at me let me know that what he said was entirely correct. The pack members would not like any of the vampires being here, even with them here to help us. The women staying at the other locations will allow them to stay calm, while they are being protected from the group that has singled us out for attack. The women seem to be very patient with the children while the kids fired off question after question at them. They seemed amused by how interested the children were in them. Reagan mentioned that the children down here were the same ones to help her research vampires with her. The men were basically silent, just watchful, as they watched the interaction of the children getting closer and closer to the women, with no fear showing on them at all. Their clear interest in them washed away any fear they might have had toward them. I was glad that Anton would be staying here to help Reagan, as Draven has claimed her as his own. I didn't want her to be left alone without one of them here to help protect her. I was thankful now for Reagan reaching out. We did need more hands on deck for this. I was not expecting the bulk of the hands to be attacked to actual vampires, but I can see where this will work very out in our favor now. I approached Alexei, Brandon, and Justin, who were speaking to each other. I had a few more questions that I wanted to ask, and not where everyone could hear me. I know that Clive had the same questions to ask. We had fought them. They were not weak by any stretch of the imagination. Clive fought Draven and I fought the other male, and neither of them was weak. I could have gone longer, but I got that punch to the side of my head, and that was it for me. These vampires must be very strong indeed for them to consider Draven and his coven to be weak. I am even more thankful that they are here now, as I had no idea the kind of strength that they had. No wonder they didn't look worried about fighting Draven and his coven. Who knows how many we would have potentially lost tonight without them here. I guess it was the goddess herself that set this up. My friend who lives in a nearby pack, the ones who were going to help us out, decided earlier today that we were on our own. He said that he would take the chance on them coming to his pack, but that he would not be coming to help us out. I guess our treaty means nothing to him, or he was just too scared to help. I can't blame him. This whole thing scares out of me too. I just can't wrap my head around the fact that I have 9 vampires inside my pack, and I am not terrified. After speaking to them, I know that the only way that we have any chance at all is by them being here to help us out. If we succeed tonight, it will only be because they were here to help us out. Otherwise, we would probably be just as ruthlessly killed as my mate and son were. Chapter 140 Cheryl's POV. I knew that we were traveling with vampires, and I was nervous, to say the least. I have never had any experience with them, and I was glad that Kevin didn't know that I was going to be with them. He would have worried this whole time. He was already worried about my coming here, without being healed. It was a choice I made, with Raven, who knew what the whole plan was. She was completely confident that the people who were coming with us would be able to handle the problem that they were having at Blood Tracker with no problems at all. Her confidence in them, along with Brandon and Justin, allowed me to be willing to come along. I was actually looking forward to getting to see Reagan again. I had mentioned to Raven wanting to stop on the way back to see Graham, and that was actually my primary reason for coming. I knew I was still weak, but I was a lot better than I had been when I arrived at Blackadder. Max, my doctor, is amazed by the progress that I have made over the course of a week. He mentions how strong I am to me every day. I don't fully believe him, but he reminds me that he thought I would be on the feeding tube for weeks, not days. He said that I am on course to be at 100%, by the time a month is complete. I think he might be right, as I do feel much stronger than I have in a long time. I have the wheelchair in the back of the SUV, but I walked in from the garage with help from Max. I assumed that Blake was coming, but until we got here and I saw him, I didn't know if he would show up or not. He knew I was coming, and my wolf, Akela, had told me on the way here, that he would be there waiting for me. Her bond with his wolf, Kona, was still very strong. They were 100% mates, and that never changed. It was the stupid decisions made by Blake himself that messed things up for both of us. Kona condemned Blake for what he did, as Kona himself tried to tell Blake the truth too. He wanted to warn Blake what was happening, and that he was being tricked. Kona knew from Kevin's scent, that Kevin was his, but Blake was just adamant that Kona was being led astray, and lied to by Akela. Due to the window tint on the SUV I was in, Blake didn't know I was in there until he saw me enter Reagan's home from the garage. He was not happy to see Max's arm around me assisting me as I walked. His anger was coming off of him in waves. He was approaching us to start an argument, when Raven entered with her mates, followed by the vampires. I wasn't surprised because Alexei and Dmitri had been in the last row of the SUV that we were riding in. They were back where the tint was darkest to keep them out of the sun as we traveled to come here. They also wanted to discuss what we needed to do to get the desired outcome tonight. We had to get here before the sun went down, so they could all get in position. Draven and his group do not need to see them coming, or us preparing for their arrival. They were much nicer than I expected them to be, but Alexei was the talker out of the two of them. Apparently, he knew who they were going to go and fight with, and I knew that he was confident in his people winning. I just wasn't aware that he would be fighting his own half-brother, not until he mentioned it. I believe that they can speak to each other in their minds as well, as Dmitri never opened his mouth the first time, but they seemed to be able to communicate just fine together. My thoughts were confirmed when they were discussing how to let people know how many were in the group. It was determined that Brandon and Justin would be the ones to mind-link Raven with the total number of Draven's group. Raven would tell Clive, who would tell Aaron at the pack house, and Jeremy the warrior at the hospital. Anton would then relay the information to the rest of the vampires in their assigned places. We will be working out of Reagan's home like it was command central for the night. I was glad that she had cameras on her home, and I felt safe there. Anton doesn't seem concerned at all about this turn of events, but I guess if I was almost 450 years old, it would be the norm for me too. He seems ready to go right now and is calmly sitting there playing something on his phone. He must feel my eyes on him, as his head comes up and he stares right at me. I know he heard my heart rate increase because he gives me a slow smile, and I nodded at him as I blushed. I wasn't checking him out, but it may have looked that way to him. I guess it did to him and others as I heard the growl from the chair next to the couch that I am sitting on. Blake is glaring a hole through Anton, whose smile grew even larger at Blake's warning. Before I could lower my gaze, Anton gave me a wink and went back to his phone. I tried to hide my smile from the response that Anton gave me, but I couldn't. He is very attractive, and I haven't had anyone flirt with me for a long time. Blake is now looking at me like I was trying to flirt with Anton, but honestly, I have very little experience with vampires, and I was just interested in watching them. I heard a loud clump next to me, and it was Blake, who had picked up his chair and moved closer to me, dropping it back down on the floor. It was almost like he was daring anyone to come over to me. I don't think that Anton is really concerned about Blake being jealous, at all. He was back playing whatever game it was on his phone and ignoring us all. He must have a lot of confidence in himself and his abilities to not be concerned about how this is going to play out. His brother, Alexei, is still making plans with Brandon, Justin, and Aaron, and I guess when they get it nailed down, they will announce to everyone what will be happening. I keep my head down, and I know that Blake wants to talk to me, but there is no need for us to speak to each other. He decided that Graham was the one that he wanted to listen to. So, as far as I am concerned, he can just drive back there to Black Moon and speak to Graham right now. We have nothing left to discuss right now. He needs to do as I have asked and give me some time. We both need some time alone to gather our thoughts. Even if he realizes what he did now to the both of us, it just doesn't constitute an emergency on my part. I am in no rush at all to get back together with him. I warned Blake over and over again, and he couldn't hear me. Now the shoe is on the other foot, and he wants me to just let it all go, and I just fall into his arms like a good mate. I can't do that, I won't do that. Do I still love him? Yes, yes I do, very much so. Does that negate all the st he put me through? No, no it doesn't. Does that mean that his telling the whole pack that I was unfaithful to him, didn't hurt? Because it truly did, each and every time it happened. The disrespect that the pack members gave me, was hard enough, but what Blake ended up doing, hurt me the most. No, I won't just drop all the anger, pain, and frustration that I felt for the last several years because he suddenly figured it out. I had told him, again and again, that what he was doing was going to cost him. How could I just fold after a week and be okay with all he did to me? Or forget what he did to our son, as a son who is convinced that his own father hates him? The answer was that I wasn't. That is not who I was at all. I had forgotten how strong I used to be. But in the last week, I am starting to remember. I will be strong for both me and Kevin. Max made sure to sit in the chair opposite Blake's. He didn't want to cause Blake to lose it, as Blake is an alpha, and it would cause a problem in the home. We already had enough going on already with the looming attack tonight. I was seated on the end of the couch, with the end table in front of me. There were lone chairs on opposite ends of the table, and another large couch facing me. I forgot Reagan had 9 children that lived here with her and Clive. This seating arrangement was pretty large, and I was glad when Raven stepped up to sit next to me and asked me to move to the middle of the couch. She sat down by Blake at the end of the couch he was sitting on. She is taking the pressure off of me by doing that. Reagan dropped down on the other side of me, near Max. I see her look at the chair that Blake moved, and I knew she was going to mention it when her eyebrow lifted up and she said, "Blake, be sure to put it back where you got it from." She didn't say it loud, but everyone in the room could hear her. Our hearing is excellent. The glare he fixed on her was scary. They didn't have a great relationship, and I didn't want her getting on his bad side again, so I felt compelled to bring down the drama in the room. "I will put it back," I told her, trying to keep the peace. She shook her head no, but before she could speak Max said, "You do not need to lift it. If it needs to be moved, I will do it. You are better than you were, but I will remind you that you passed out completely when you arrived at Blackadder. You are nowhere near as strong as you need to be. Okay, I guess it will be shots fired then," as Blake's eyes snapped from me to Max, very quickly. "You don't need to give that look to me, Blake. You are the one who hurt her so much that she couldn't eat. Look at her, look at what you have done. She was your mate, and you mistreated her for years. Kevin is physically okay, but not emotionally. You did a real number on the ones you say you love," Max said, in a low tone. He was playing with fire. He knew Blake was going to pull a "but I love you" out of his hat to downplay all he has done. It also pointed out that it was a long time since he started trying to hurt me, so it was serious. So serious that all the talk in the room had stopped. I turned to look and most of the people in the room are looking at us. My face is red now, as this was embarrassing, and I would have rather avoided it. Blake is furious and looks like he is spoiling for a fight with Max. "She is my mate, not was, so get that straight first, doctor," Blake said, and his way of saying doctor with so much contempt in his voice was appalling. "Max worked hard to save me, Blake doesn't need to downplay it so much. I did almost die. We do not need to discuss this in front of everyone here. This is a personal matter, and Blake, we can speak on the phone about it later. Now is not the time, the whole room doesn't need to know what happened," I hissed at Blake in a low tone. I was ashamed of what had happened, and I didn't want to speak about it in front of these guests. "I would like to hear what happened," a voice comes from behind us and Kira is standing there with her head tilted as if she wants to engage with Blake. She is giving him a look that said, he needs to tread carefully here. He seems surprised that Nadia is right next to her. We never heard them move, they were suddenly just there. I can tell that they are here in support of me, but I do not want to cause any problems tonight. I have even changed my mind about stopping to speak to Graham now. He might take the opportunity to try to kidnap me or to cause problems with Blackadder, and I just can't take that chance. I live there, and Kevin is waiting on me. I do not want Blake's actions to get me kicked out. He knows I have nowhere to go. I might have to return to him, at least in his mind. I wouldn't. We would be leaving the state, and I can guarantee him that he would not be hearing from either of us if he forces my hand like that. I don't really want to get into it," I started to say. Kira nodded, and then looked right at Blake and said, "But, you do, right? Well, he sure looks like he does, doesn't he, Kira? This poor woman is clearly not doing well. I have never seen such a frail-looking she-wolf in my life, and I am over 300 years old. What did you do to her?" Nadia said to Blake. Raven and Reagan each slide over to the edge of the couch, for Kira and Nadia to slide in on either side of me. Blake stayed silent, and I did too, as the women continued to stare at Blake. "I bet I can guess what happened, Kira. I can see the doctor likes her. I can sense it, he is interested in her, and according to what was said, this one is her mate. Aren't you supposed to love, protect, and take care of your mates? I could be wrong here, but I doubt it. So what did you do to her, Blake? You get a beautiful and strong mate, and you hurt her, why?" Nadia asked him and leaned forward on the couch. She sat closest to Blake, and she was letting him know to get froggy if he wanted to jump, but we could all tell that it was not going to end well for him if he did. "You are not involved in our private conversation. Cheryl said to stop talking about it, and I am respecting her wishes. I will wait for her to be willing to let me speak to her. Hopefully, in private later on tonight," Blake said and looked pointedly at Max. "I can assure you that will not be happening for you tonight, Blake." Max fired back and stayed reclined in his chair in a comfortable position. He was acting like he was not worried at all about what Blake was going to do to him. "Right, because you are in charge of my mate now. Is that what you are saying? She is mine, we are having some issues in our relationship right now. But one day she will forgive me, and come back to me," Blake growled out to Max. "I am her doctor. She needs to keep her stress levels down, and speaking to you causes her stress. So yes, as far as you are concerned, I am in charge of her. If you want to cause her to get upset, then yes, you will be answering for it. Because I won't allow you to bully her right here in front of me," Max said back to Blake, and the room went silent again. This was really embarrassing, and I didn't want this to be playing out in front of everyone like this. I can see that Blake is pissed off at the lack of respect that Max is giving him. He is about to phase into his wolf, Kona, and tear into Max very soon. "I knew it," he said to forgive him. "You know what that means," Kira Nadia said, "and she is pissed. I can feel the heat on my cheeks, and I really wished that I just left it to Raven and her mates to save the women. I should have stayed behind in the hospital. I just felt since Blake was doing it to prove that they meant nothing to him, so he was killing them off in the worst way he could think of. I felt like I needed to stop it from happening, and I am kicking myself for it now. I should have relented, and I would be safe and sound in my bed at the hospital right now. Not here getting totally embarrassed in front of the vampires, with Max about to be attacked by Blake. I felt ashamed, and heartbroken as I felt like they knew exactly what had happened. That my own mate didn't even want me, and was willing to let the whole world know it. I can feel the prick of tears in my eyes, as I feel like this embarrassing situation will never end. Doctor, can you please go with me to escort Cheryl upstairs? I can feel that she needs to rest now. She is worn out, and she needs some peace. A strong masculine voice sounded from behind us. I turned to see Anton standing there, and he is much more intimidating up close. I felt one of my tears slip out, and run down the side of my face, and Anton stepped closer to me and held his hand out for me to take. I reached out and took it before I even thought about it. I did need to get out of there. I didn't want a room full of people seeing me cry at being exposed as not having been enough to my own mate. Blake stood up from his chair to stop me from walking away, and then he started floating up to the ceiling. He looks around stunned, and Nadia smiled and waved at him, so he would know that it was her that had stopped him. No, I think she needs a break right now, Blake. Please do not go too far tonight with her, while I am at the hospital. I would hate to have to speak to you after I return. It takes me a while to dial back down after a fight. I wouldn't want to take it out on you for hurting her, Nadia tells him, and she is dead serious. The threat was in the air, but he brought it on himself. He is very angry, but I do not turn back to look at him. Even on the landing I just keep my eyes down, so no one can tell that I am crying. I am embarrassed at how weak I am appearing in front of them. I really made a mistake in coming here. Reagan had come up with us, and led us to her room. I changed the sheets today. Go ahead and have a rest. I will speak to Blake. He is on my turf now, in my home. If he wants to clown, then he can stay in the pack house with his cousin Aaron and his men for the night. I will not allow disrespect in my own home, Reagan said as she goes to exit the room. Doc, did you bring your bag here with you? I can tell that Cheryl's heart rate is elevated. She is upset and she needs attending. I will stay with her, and run interference for her. I am quite sure though that Nadia is probably still toying with him in the living room. I will watch over Cheryl until you return, Anton said to Max, and I can see that Max doesn't want to leave me alone in the room with a vampire. Anton has a comforting presence around him, and he does not scare me. I nodded and told Max that he was good to go out to get it. As soon as the door shut, Anton approached the bed and sat on the end of it. Just like you saw, Nadia has special powers, I do as well. She has telekinesis, and I have telepathy. I already know what happened between you and Blake. I could feel your emotions and you were unintentionally drowning me in them. You are still in a great deal of pain. I just want you to know that I read his mind too. Sometimes people lie, and after we have been lied to, or are grossly mistreated like you were, we build up our hearts to protect ourselves. I want you to know that as much as you still love him, he loves you too. He is sick about what he has done. He does want to win you back and is willing to do whatever you ask to achieve it. I know that you cannot believe him, and I do not blame you at all for it. I have seen the highlight reel, and what he has done is off the charts in hurtful and disgusting behavior. I just want you to know, from an impartial third party, that he wishes he could take it all back. Whoever Graham is a dead man. He plans on torturing Graham every day of his life, but not to death. He is going to make him suffer. He will make him suffer until the day you come back home to him. He wants either you or Kevin to do the honors when the time comes to put an end to Graham. He wanted to tell you a few things that he has planned for you, and that he was wanting to step down, as soon as he can, and spend the rest of his days with you. I am only going to tell you one part of it because I wanted him to surprise you with the rest of his ideas. I wanted you to know that I could read his mind, so I gave you a part of what he was going to say to you. Some of it was for you to have the upper hand when you do go to speak to Graham tomorrow on your way back home. If you want me to keep him away from you all night, I will. I just wanted you to know that as much as the doctor likes you, your mate still loves you. It was why he got so hurt by the lies Graham told him. It is your decision in the end, Cheryl, but I wanted you to know what I saw when I read his mind, Anton said and rose from the bed. He brushed the tears off my cheek as he stood above me with a gentle smile on his face. I feel like I have made a good friend today. I smiled back at him through the tears and told him, "Thank you, Anton. I am glad you told me that. You were right. I feel like I cannot trust him, at all, anymore." I gave him my heart and he shattered it and then kept stepping on the pieces until they were ground into dust. I will speak to him later on tonight. I just might stay close to you when I do it. I do not know how the talk will go, but you are right, I do still love him. I just can't trust him anymore. I don't know if I ever can again actually. If you can read minds, then you know that too, I told him. It is all up to you. Blake is not your only option. You need to stop being so mired in your emotions and pay a little more attention to the people around you. You are the only one who can make this decision. I felt like you needed to hear it for yourself. But I wanted you to know how he truly felt, from someone who doesn't have an agenda for either side. He is miserable without you, and he misses you both and does want you to come back," Anton said, and stepped back away from me about 10 seconds before the door opened, and Max hurried back in. He looked scared when he rushed in, but slowed down when he saw that I was fine. He had obviously hurried to get to the SUV and back. I smiled to let him know I was fine. As Max came to check on me, Anton gave me another wink and a half bow before turning and exiting the room. I will give Blake an opportunity to speak to me, after all the excitement for tonight is over and done. Chapter 141 Reagan's POV. It is dusk now, and Clive and I were standing outside as we brought the children back in for the night. Some of the children that had been staying overnight with us had been out here earlier playing with them too. Well before dusk arrived, their parents called them back in. We had called our children in and they were just entering the house, when I saw the flash of movement in the woods. They are here, and there are well more than 3 of them in their group. I immediately started walking back towards the house with Clive, and I heard Draven's voice calling across to me, "Have you made a decision, love?" He clearly cannot stop, and I did not reply back to him, there was no point. Our entering the house and locking the door after us, was the answer. Everyone was in place already. The vampires had their own kind of tarp-like cover that they used as they went to where they were assigned about 30 minutes ago. Warriors went with them to both the pack house and the hospital. The warriors were a dual purpose. The first was for them to introduce themselves to the other warriors. The second was to make sure that no harm came to them. They needed to make sure that they knew who the good guys were. If they were assaulted, these women would be attacking them back, as they should protect themselves against any unwarranted attack. Jeremy and 3 other lead warriors had come here an hour ago to get to know the group before escorting them to where they needed to go. The warriors were respectful, but very cautious around them. They should be, from what I have heard from the stories they told before they left. Every single person in this group that came, was a verified killing machine. They had no fear of the group that was coming to attack us tonight. I was surprised when I saw Nadia use her power on Blake. I almost laughed, but we just got to talking to each other again, and I didn't want to ruin it by laughing at him being stopped in midair by her. She had to stop him though. He was going to press the issue, and that was not what he needed to do. We all knew that he was desperate to get Cheryl back. He really needed to slow down and think about what he had done to her. Not in the dismissive way that he had been previously. He needed to face what he put her through, and the fact that was most damning to him. He willingly listened to someone who could not be trusted and refused to listen to his mate. The woman he chose to be his Luna, and the mother of his children. Aaron had to calm him down as he wanted to storm up to my room to speak to her. It was driving him crazy that she was alone in a room with 2 men, but Anton came back down. He walked over to Blake and after he spoke to him, Blake completely calmed down. I guess Blake got some good news or pertinent information that he wanted. Whatever it was, it helped him to deal with his anger over the doctor who was constantly dismissive of Blake. Our warriors had built 4 small huts for the male vampires, with the items that the vampires had brought with them. They were put near the tree line in 4 spots, none of which were near the areas they usually entered and exited. Justin and Brandon had gone out and climbed up to a spot where they had a view of the area, without them being able to be spotted. They both had camouflage netting that prevented them from being seen from the ground. The netting was draped behind them and on the sides. That netting, combined with the spray that blocked their scent, made them undetectable. The scent would last for 8 hours, but they wouldn't need it for that long. Aaron had gone to the pack house, with the warriors, and vampires. He had mind-linked the whole pack to announce that the female vampires at both the pack house and the hospital, were not to be disrespected. He told everyone in no-nonsense terms that we had 9 vampires here to help us in our time of need. That they were risking their own lives to be here to take down a threat that was solely here to kill us. I was proud of him, and what he was doing to bridge that gap between us. I was glad that he pointed out the difference between them so the pack members knew that the ones helping us were also disgusted by the behavior of the ones that were attacking us. Raven announced to the room. Justin and Brandon both counted a total of 13 vampires that had come onto the pack land. They also said to thank Reagan for the walk through the area, as from where they are set up, the vampires went right between them. They will be leaving the same way and they will pick them off if they try to escape. Clive immediately sent out the link to Aaron for him to advise all of the warriors. Anton sent out the same message to his group as well. From the smile on his face, I knew that they were excited about the opportunity to end this coven of violent vampires. There are always covens that are the reason for the bad reputations that they carry. This goes for both vampires, witches, and even werewolves because rogues give us all a bad reputation. Most packs want to be left alone and safely raise their pups. They are not violent nor do they cause any problems, but there are always a few that have to be problem children for everyone. The same goes for covens, some are good ones, and some aren't. I had heard the conversation about what was needed if anyone attempted to get away. Both Justin and Brandon have night vision glasses, they had a wrap around the sides of them to keep any light out, and you didn't have to use them with your hands like binoculars or goggles. These were able to be worn and allowed the user to be able to see where they were aiming and be able to use the crossbow at the same time, as they were hands-free. I have to admit that Justin and Brandon had come prepared. No wonder no one has attempted to attack Blackadder. It would be a fool's errand to do so if they were able to be prepared this quickly. It showed that they already had it in their pack, and were ready for any kind of attack imaginable. It makes me wonder what they are so prepared for. We do not have anything like that here, and I can see from this experience that we honestly need it. I made mental notes that after we get our perimeter in place, we need to get trained like Blackadder was to be able to defend ourselves. I can hear Draven outside the door, scratching his nails across it, and deliberately trying to get me anxious. I know he can hear me as my heart rate increased at him messing with me. We had put more of the pack members at the pack house for tonight, as it was a known fact that he was coming for me. Most of them didn't want to be here anyway as they knew that this would be where they would be focusing their attack. I guess it was easier for him to sense where I was now with fewer people here. I cannot help the leap of fear that I have at his insistence in taking me. Now that I know he was just wanting me for my power, and lied about the mate thing, I am even more pissed off about this whole thing. How many women had he done this to? Women that he was probably scaring to death by his doing this, taking them from their homes, and their families. All because he was interested in them. I have to say that having Anton, and his calming presence here, is a game changer for me. I would probably be hysterical at this point if he and his group were not here to help us. I realized at this moment that everyone here is willing to fight to the death, to stop them. That means a lot, especially for the people who I have wronged, that 6 of them were here to help me, and Blood Tracker, out of this mess. I will owe Raven, Justin, Brandon, Cole, Blake, and Cheryl, so much more than I could ever be able to repay them after this. They came, and helped, without expecting anything in return, even after the horrible things that I did. I am grateful that the goddess put it on their hearts to forgive me for my previous actions. Raven's mates took the initiative to make sure that the problem would be solved tonight. There would not be a good outcome for me, or this pack if they hadn't come here with the vampires tonight. Raven announced, they are working on getting into the pack house, and the hospital. Both places advised that there are 4 vampires at each location. Clive relayed the information to Aaron to send out to the warriors. Anton did the same for the vampires. We all knew that they would already know that they were already there, but having a specific number associated with the attackers helped. It let you know how many would be pouring in after they managed to find a weak spot to enter at each location. Everyone was prepared, and I could hear them walking on the eaves of the second story, right now. My children and Cheryl were up there. Yes, they had warriors with them, but I needed to get up there to protect my children. I needed to go up there and make sure that they are all safe. Clive, Anton, and Blake were right behind me as I went up. Draven knows how much I love my children. Getting possession of one, or more of them, I would trade places with the kids to keep him from hurting them. I would do it in a heartbeat, and he knew that from the first night when I shot him trying to defend them. He knew they were mine, as they have my scent all over them. He is willing to do any underhanded thing to force me into going with him, and it is right at nightfall now. That means that there are 5 vampires working on getting inside my home. There are 3 warriors who were great sharpshooters from both the Bloodwalker pack, and 3 more from Blackadder who were in the trees on either side of my home, the pack house, and the hospital. There were 2 stationed at each location and were all equipped with night vision glasses as well. They all have bullets that were soaked in wolfsbane, and a liquid made from white vervain. It will hurt them enough for them to get weak, and not be able to get up to them in the trees if they are discovered. Cheryl was seated with my children as she comforted the younger ones, and the doctor was also armed, and near the window, waiting to see if they will be able to get through our defenses. He sent a relieved glance at me when he saw us arrive with Anton. Anton had used the scent blocker too, so Draven and his crew will not know that Anton is here, unless they managed to get through our defenses, and into my room. I can tell that they are being methodical about trying to find an entry point at my home. I can tell from the sounds I was hearing at all the windows on the second floor they brought tools to be able to get through our defenses faster tonight. Apparently, they just wanted to grab me and get out of there. Just in case we hurt one of them with our primitive weapons. Anton walked up beside me and held up a piece of paper that read "Talk to him and keep him distracted. Alexei and the group are about to move in to surround them. When I give you the word, we will all attack at all 3 locations at the same time, so they cannot come here to help him." I nodded at him and walked over to the window. I also have my gun on me, and I had also dipped my bullets in the same liquid mixture. He won't be just hopping back up this time like he did the last time. You need to leave here, Draven. I will not be going with you. I do not want to go, and I do not trust you at all. Please just leave me in peace, I called out. I knew no matter where he was around my home, he would hear me and what I said to him. Sure enough, about 20 seconds later I heard his feet land outside my window. Oh, my love, I will not be leaving here without you. As a matter of fact, I may even take your lovely daughter along with us. I need you to come with me without a fight, so I have decided that your oldest daughter will accompany us. She looks to be a teenager, and as soon as she turns 18, I am sure one of the members of my coven will take an interest in her, and accept her. She has your power running through her as well. Corbin believes you are stunning too, and will not mind waiting for your daughter to turn of age. As soon as he and Nix take care of that guy who stabbed him in the back, he will be over here to help me take you and your daughter to our coven. That way you will never be alone, she will be there with you, Draven said to me. I am so upset, I could throw up right now. I cannot stop the shudder of disgust over these men wanting to take my daughter with us. She is only 14 years old, and I am angry right now. I know he can feel it because he taunts me with it. Do not be upset, my love. I am here to take you with me, and I will protect you both. It is my coven, and what I say goes, Draven tells me, and his cockiness makes me want to shoot him right now. But I don't know exactly where he is, and until I can see him, I will not waste a precious bullet. They are all earmarked for whoever touches my Tatiana or any of my children. I will not let them touch one hair on her head. I closed my eyes and prayed to the moon goddess that she will protect my baby girl. We refuse to leave with you. Go find someone else to catch your eye. I will not allow you bloodsuckers to take me, or my child, I yelled back at him. I looked at Anton, and mouthed, sorry to him. He smiled and nodded at me and motioned me to continue to speak so I can keep his attention on me. Oh, you will both be coming, whether you like it or not. I already told you, lovely, you are mine. I plan to make sure that happens. I have put great thought into tonight, and nothing will stop me from taking you. But this will be a night that you will never forget. You refused to come with me when I asked you to so nicely. You will have to learn a lesson for that, but I won't punish you. No, I plan on taking your mate's life, right in front of you as you are helpless to stop me. You will cry and scream as I drain the blood from your mate, as you feel his terror and pain. I will not be gentle with him about it, as I will make him suffer because you dared to reject my offer. I wanted to treat you like a queen, and you basically spit in my face at my offer. So you will have to learn. That is the main reason that I will be taking your daughter. If you fail to fall in line, like I am asking you to, I will kill her, right in front of you too. Then I will send my people here, to get another one of your children, or maybe multiple children. They will have no one here left to protect them with their father dead, will they? You need to learn a lesson for your brazen disregard for my gracious and considerate invitation. I was captivated by your beauty, and I made you a thoughtful proposition. I picked you to be mine. You should have been grateful for the offer, as you are basically a dog as far as worth. You will now have to earn my favor again. You will have to work for it, and if you please me, then you and your daughter will be safe, and well taken care of. If you decide to disobey me again, let's just say that I will make sure that you are very sorry for it, Draven told me, and my heart drops into my stomach. He is angry because I didn't fall at his feet with his offer. How could he expect me to though? I am too scared to speak when I hear a voice call out from right behind me. Who are you to threaten my sister? Are you crazy? No one will be leaving here with you today. I will die protecting both my sister and my niece. You might as well pack up and leave now if you think that you will be doing any of what you just said to anyone here. You need to just stop talking crap, and leave here. We dogs are more than happy to take a bite out of you if you push us. But you will not be killing her mate or anyone else in this house. You are clearly in need of an attitude adjustment and we will be absolutely glad to give it to you. Get off the house, get out of our pack land, and stay away from her. She is not for you and never will be, no matter what you try to do. Raven called out to him, and he growled out in anger at being so disrespected. Raven had come up carrying one of the many swords in the house. From the sound of things we may be needing it soon. I am glad Anton has one too, and we can all hear the blows of heavy tools hitting the wood we have in place on the windows. Anton was out of sight once Draven managed to get a large piece of the wood out of the way to see both me and my sister standing shoulder to shoulder looking back at him. We both were defiant to him and the sound he made when he saw us both standing there was completely disgusting. Well, I get a 2-for-1 deal today, as I like to have a beautiful variety in my life. I believe that I will take you both, and your daughter. I will have to kill your mate quickly, my love, so we can go ahead and get out of here, Draven said as he continued to use a sledgehammer to knock off the wood outside, and inside the window, as he worked hard to get inside. We both saw the clear interest he had in us both and his delight at the thought of getting the two of us, at the same time. He is not focused on anything but breaking down the pieces we put in place to secure the room. We can hear the vampires at several of the windows as they try to enter my home. We both stepped back to stand in front of my children as Draven finally busted the window open. The shattered glass fell all around as he then started to knock down the 2x4 boards that we put up as a barrier on the inside of the window. He smirked at us as he made his way into the room, followed by 2 more vampires who gave up on the other windows, to come inside with him. I didn't hesitate as I lifted my gun and started unloading the first magazine into them. Chapter 142 Reagan's POV. This time the bullets really slowed him down. The stunned look on his face at his not healing immediately after being shot was enough for me to give him a smirk. I had the warriors already taking my children downstairs as I didn't want them to see what was about to happen. Clive and 2 warriors phased into their wolves and attacked one of the vampires. They got him down and start ripping into him, as the other vampire tried and failed to get up to help him. Anton stepped forward and Draven screamed in frustration as he figured out that we were not quite as unprepared as he thought we were going to be. Draven pulled something from his pocket and stabbed Anton in the heart with it. Anton dropped the sword and went down onto his knees quickly because of it. I took the opportunity to shoot Draven again several more times, as he was not weakened enough. It was clear that he was much stronger than the other vampires in his coven were, and he saw that one of his men was almost dead, being torn apart by Clive and the warriors. They turned their focus on attacking the second vampire who was still slumped on the floor trying to get up, and they attack him too. Draven turned and leaped out of my room through the window he had entered. Cheryl grabbed Anton and helped him down to the floor, asking him what to do to help him. It was clear that he was messaging the rest of his team to tell them what happened before he slumped against Cheryl as the pain of the silver stake to his heart took a heavy toll on his body. I ran to the window and kept firing on Draven, and the other 2 vampires who had been trying to find an entry point into my house. They gave up and ran away with Draven as they realized that we had vampires ourselves. I could hear screams ringing out from the direction that Draven ran in, and from the pack hospital, as that was closer to my home than the pack house was. I could see the 4 members of Anton's group running in to get Draven and the 2 running away with them. The 2 of them never saw it coming and I had to back away from the window in horror at the ruthless way they were killed. They literally had their heads ripped from their bodies by Dmitri and Adrik. Draven slid to a stop as he was approached by Alexei and Ivan. I was backing away from the window when I saw Draven look back at me with anger as if I had betrayed him by calling these other vampires in for help. I can see that Alexei was going to let Ivan get a shot at Draven, as this was his first real-life fight. I thought that they needed to start him out with an easier person to fight, but Ivan surprised me. He moved so fast my eyes could not keep up with him as he stabbed Draven on his side, back, and then into his other side, before stopping in front of him. I guess my bullets did weaken Draven and slow him down. I guess it will be a fair fight. I see Raven walking over to the first man attacked and he was lying still on the floor. We knew that we needed to chop his head off. I am glad that the children were not here, but Anton stopped Raven from even attempting it. Raven, you will not be strong enough to do it. It is much harder to cut off a head than you think it will be. They are working on Draven right now. Dmitri and Adrik will be here soon to take care of them, Anton told us. Cheryl looks scared for him and is holding him in her arms to try to comfort him. He looks a lot bigger than her, as he lies against her. She is still very frail, but she refused to allow the doctor to hold him. It is like she needed to do this, for both of them. Whatever the reason, we hear a sound at the door, and it is Blake. He must have heard the fighting going on and came up to check on us. He does not look pleased with seeing Cheryl holding Anton like she is. We can all tell that he wants Anton away from Cheryl as quickly as he can get him away from her. Cheryl, you are too weak to hold him, let me do it, Blake said to her and got down on the floor next to her to take Anton away from her. Cheryl glared at him and said, "No, Max already offered, and if I wouldn't let the doctor do it, why would you think that I would let you do it? At least Max was qualified to try to take care of him." Blake glared at Anton, who was not speaking, but clearly listening to the exchange between them. He did not move at all. He just lay there in her arms and waited for his strength to come back to him from his injury. We heard a noise outside as feet hit the roof outside my room, and I lifted my gun to fire again. I lowered it as soon as I saw Dmitri and Adrik on the roof outside my window. They nodded at me and dropped into the room to come and check on Anton first. Nothing was said out loud, but they were definitely communicating with each other. Dmitri and Adrik each took one of the slain vampires over their shoulder and exited through the window again. They jumped down to the ground with the bodies on their shoulder as if they did it every day and it was a normal thing. I did not have to go to the window to know what happened. I heard the sickening sound of their heads being ripped off of their bodies and knew what had just happened. I messaged the warriors with the children to make sure that they do not go outside until we get it all cleared up. I know that the sight sickened me, and I didn't want the children to see it. Seeing something so horrific really tends to stay with you. I looked at Anton, who was still leaning on Cheryl, but I could tell that he wasn't giving her his whole weight to deal with. Something was going on there, but I am going to leave it alone for the moment. Especially with Blake sitting there next to them glaring at them both. Cheryl kept her shoulder turned away from him, and continued to hold Anton against her. I couldn't wait any longer. "Anton, could you check the other members of your team and see what the head count is? I need to know if Raven needs to have Justin and Brandon ready to go after any of them that got away." Anton nodded, but never opened his eyes. A few minutes later Anton advised the room, "All 13 of them have been killed here. Alexei is already having their remains burned. Aaron came out with Kira and Irina when they left the pack house. We will burn each of them, and scatter them to where they cannot come back. We will burn their heads separately. Alexei likes to do it that way, just to make totally sure." I was a little surprised that the women managed to kill 2 vampires against one of them. The 2-to-1 odds were tough. I then realized that was the same thing people did to me. They judged me by my appearance. They underestimated me, as well. I should have realized when they showed up, in their simple outfits that had no place for anyone to be able to grab them, that they would all be a force to be reckoned with. They all looked like badass Barbies that had come to life to kick BT. I hated that I had doubted them even for a minute. The pack had come out to check out the scene after the Rouge vampires had been dealt with the families staying back so they didn't have to explain what had happened to the pups. Seeing a body, without a head on it, is hard to explain to a young child. I know my children were asking a million questions as soon as they saw that the women had come back unharmed. I could scent blood on them, and I now know why they wear black. I can imagine how you get the heads of the one you are fighting. I saw Dmitri and Adrik coming from the woods with 2 more bodies over their shoulders, and Justin and Brandon right behind them. I guess Draven had some backup that he had called for to come in to help them. 1 male, and 1 female, had been shot with the dipped arrows, and a second arrow was sent to make sure they stayed down. So Alexei and his people killed a total of 15 vampires tonight. I shudder to think of what would have happened if I hadn't reached out to Raven today. I know exactly what would have happened. I would have lost my ST at losing Clive. I would not have been able to manage after losing him. I would have made it my mission to hunt down every vampire I came across and kill them. I would have left my children with Aaron and just killed every vampire that I ran into until I was put out of my misery. I already know in my heart that is what would have happened. My heart was already broken from losing my mom, and then Dad disowning me. If I had lost Clive on top of it, I would have gone mad from the pain of it all. My loss would have been too much for me to bear, and it hits me. This was the decision that I needed to have made. It wasn't me letting Cheryl off the hook. It was me reaching out to speak to my sister, if for no other reason than to tell her that I was sorry, and goodbye. That was exactly what I was meant to do. In my pain and suffering, I would have drawn Aaron, and probably Blake into it too. We would have had the packs in a circle of violence as we attacked and killed vampires until we had found them all. I would have become just like Dad as I got them to help me eradicate the world of all vampires. I would have used every cent that Dad had made, and would ever make, just to get this done. I would have lost myself completely in doing it. I staggered a little at the realization that I would have turned my back on my children to make all the vampires pay for the act of a few. I am sickened at how close I really am to becoming Graham myself. I do not want to live like that, to be like that. I feel Clive's arms surround me and his scent helps to calm me down. I let my tears fall as the weight of what I would have done to so many innocent people hits me. I would have been the same vicious, uncaring that Draven had been. Killing others for not being the same type of supernatural as me, so they are less important than me. His calling me a dog hit home in his thought process against me and my kind. I called him a bloodsucker, and that was just as offensive to them. The knowledge of how vicious I still am at my core startles me. I am just like my piece of crap father. I vowed right now to make sure that I never allow myself to make that kind of choice ever again. I am not like him anymore. I will not become who I used to be. I am thankful that Clive keeps me pointed in the right direction. He keeps me going in the direction I need to go in, and I will not be looking back. I needed Raven and Cheryl in my life for accountability. For them to hold my feet to the fire, and make sure that I was doing right, and will continue to do the right thing. I want to be a great mom to my children. One who not only takes care of her children but shows them the way to be as they grow up. To love and care for others. How to fight well, and that they need to be good brothers and sisters to each other. They may be part of the pack too, but their siblings are so important to them as well. Clive is holding me up completely now, as I cannot seem to calm down at all from what just happened. The horror of what Draven was going to do to my family, to try to destroy it like he was. To want to kill my mate right in front of my eyes. I would never have been able to come back from that. Even if he had been successful and taken me away with him, I would have bided my time, until I could have killed him. I would have plotted against him to my last breath to get him back if he had harmed my mate or my daughter like he planned to. I still cannot believe that he was mad at me like I caused his demise. He blamed me there at the end with Alexei and Yvonne as they were about to deal with him. He had the gall to turn to me like he had the right to be pissed at me. He was the whole reason for it. The whole reason that they are even here was to end his reign of terror that he had over this pack. Reagan, you will be fine. This was a very stressful incident. The things he said to you were absolutely horrible. You will be able to calm down soon, but I would suggest that you move your family into the other rooms in your home, until you can get your room cleaned of all the blood. I had them take the bodies outside to deal with them, so your room would not be covered in it when they removed their heads. Draven was bad, but you need to remember that you are not who you used to be. I do not think that you would have killed innocents. I think that you would have focused on killing the ones like Draven. The ones who needed to be weeded out of the garden, but I cannot see the future. I can only read minds. I just like to think that you would have realized what you were doing before you went too far with it. Luckily, we were here to help and took care of the problem. Remain calm, and let your mate soothe you. Sometimes that is all you need, is the one you love to hold you in their arms, Anton said as he stood next to me and Clive. I can tell that he is speaking about more than just me with his comment. I can see him watching Cheryl carefully. She was sitting on the ground as she is still recovering and she is still weak. Blake was on one side of her, and Max on the other. I can see that they are both stressing Cheryl out with their bickering over her. Thank you, Anton. I believe that you are speaking to more than just me with your message. I don't have to be able to read minds to know that you have special feelings for Cheryl. You are such a gentle soul. I hope that you will be willing to come with us tomorrow, to visit Graham. I would like someone who can read minds present with us, as I speak to my father for the very last time. I believe that our arrival should be a shock to him, as he hates me, Raven, and Cheryl. He also hates Cole, Justin, and Brandon. He should be pretty pissed off when we get there to see him. Should be quite the show, and I know that it will be stressful for Cheryl, as he wanted her dead. I am glad that she is willing to go and see him, and let him know that he was not successful in what he wanted to happen to her, and to her son. He did hurt her, and he did break her, but she didn't stay broken, and she rescued her son from the plans he made for him. I don't know how it will play out for her, but I do know that I appreciated what you and your team did here. You saved my life, my mate's life, and my daughter's life. I cannot begin to pay you back for it. What I can do, is help you out though, starting in the morning. But if you ever need our help, we will be glad to give it to you, I told Anton with a smile on my face. I already knew what needed to be done here. Blake had his chance and he almost killed Cheryl over the choices that he made. I think the doctor likes her, but he is not in love with her. I watched Anton with Cheryl. He sensed her right away. He could feel it when she watched him. His wink causing her to blush means that there is probably something there between them. Something that I think needs to be explored. I turned and gave Clive a kiss that had all the love I could give him in it. He was quick to respond in kind. I will make sure I show him how much I love and care for him tonight. But first I need to find my sister to have a little talk. I think that we need to help them out a little with this budding romance. It is almost unheard of for a werewolf and a vampire to be together. They will need help along the way, and I was thrilled to see Alexei standing with Raven, Justin, and Brandon. That does make it easier to get this done. I asked Raven if we could speak, and she was glad to do it. The first thing I did was hug her tight. She is the very reason that I am safe, and with my family now. She spearheaded this whole thing, and her mates did it because they love and trusted her. I told her how much I loved and appreciated her, and I could see the tears in her eyes as I let her go. Then I mentioned my purpose for approaching her. The men spoke together as we all watched the bodies burn down in separate piles. They had already arranged for containers for them so their ashes could be separated and spread well away from their heads. The more the ashes were spread around in a large area, the more impossible it would be for even a powerful witch to ever bring them back from what happened. I was glad that Raven could see what I saw too, and I told her what he had said to me. That he didn't argue with me about me telling him that I could see he cared for Cheryl. She had also been there in the room when Cheryl held him, even in her weakened state. Raven knows how much it means to be with someone that you love, versus someone that you like. We needed to do this for them. I am sorry that Blake will be furious about this, but we need to put this in motion. First, we needed to speak to Alexei about this. His input will be the most important for us, as I do not even know if this is feasible or not. Anton was being the bigger person and stepped back because he knows that Cheryl loves Blake. She did, and she still may, but there is no coming back from what he did to her. 6 years of disrespect and abusive behavior, by the very people she worked hard to take care of. There was a real disconnect there. The fact that she came here to keep the women who betrayed her from being killed by the vampires showed what kind of a person she was. I don't know if I could even have been as strong as her over this. She even had her parents, and her children, willing to speak against her too. I don't think that is any way she will be coming back to be the Luna of the Black Moon Pack again. I am not even counting the last 6 months of her stay there. I am just counting the fact that he allowed her pack to disrespect its Luna. To the point where she was no longer safe in her own pack, all because he was eaten up with jealousy. He had absolutely no excuse for what he did, at all. He heard her warn him, and didn't care enough to listen. His choosing to listen to a man that he knew could not be trusted, instead of his own mate, was his downfall. There was no coming back from that. I think it would be impossible. Plus, the fact that Anton, despite just having met her, was completely wrapped around her finger. Raven brought it up to Alexei, Justin, and Brandon. We all watched as Anton tried not to make it obvious that he was keeping an eye out for her, in case the men got out of hand. She was doing the same thing, and trying to not be obvious either. Every time their eyes met, she blushed, and they both looked away. But it was clear to anyone watching them that they both had an interest in each other. Not a curiosity about werewolves, or vampires, but actual interest in each other and seeing where this could lead them in the future. The problem is that they are both nice people. They will not be actively or aggressively seeking each other out. I already know that Anton wants her to be happy and willing to let her be with her mate, but if he really looked at her memories, he would see that it cannot be possible for her to go back into that situation. It would be bad for it to even happen. I am hopeful that tomorrow's visit will be one where they will all see that clearly. Because Blake needs to see the damage that he has done to her as well. I am positive that sometime during the visit tomorrow, this point will be driven home to Blake. Chapter 143 Raven's POV. I am very glad that Reagan pointed out the fact that Anton was interested in Cheryl to us. I wanted Cheryl to be happy, and Dr. Max is nice, but I can tell that she is not as interested in him, as he is in her. That won't work at all, as a relationship cannot be all one-sided. Both parties need to be interested, and it was now painfully obvious to all of us, that both Cheryl and Anton were indeed interested in each other. They were just too nice to take the first step, as they were not sure if the other was interested in them. She was hesitant in starting a new relationship after this experience with Blake. Plus, I am sure they are both concerned about the werewolf and vampire thing too. But now that it has been pointed out, we all can see how cute they are together. This was going to take forever if we let them do it, as they were both trying to apply the brakes to their budding romance. We all wanted them to be happy, and as quickly as possible. So as we got ready to leave this morning, we had Alexei tell Dmitri that he needed to ride with the rest of the group and let Anton ride in our vehicle with us. Cheryl was right in front of him, and I could tell that they were both excited to see that they will be riding together. Although they both tried to downplay it, I could tell that they were both happily surprised by the new seating arrangement. Max was less happy about the new arrangement, as he can see it too. I let Justin ride up front with Brandon so I could sit between the doctor and Cheryl. I also kept the conversation going too. I wanted them to get to know each other better, so I was asking a lot of questions of everyone. I tried not to make it obvious by including the doctor, and Alexei in the conversation too. I know that Anton was suspicious of my sudden interest, and was probably trying to read my mind. I switched gears, announcing that Cheryl needed to be protected while we were here at Black Moon. It was a reminder to all, with Anton and Dr. Max both quickly agreeing to it, so they could stay with Cheryl. Alexei nodded in agreement as well. I believe that when we arrive with vampires in tow, they will be leaving us alone. But Cheryl had it bad here for numerous years. Some just cannot resist digging in on someone who was an underdog like that. Bullying behavior doesn't just stop. As soon as they see you again, they will want to start up on you and take up where they left off. I will not allow it on my watch. I was glad that Clive and Regan were also coming with us, as they were transporting the 4 women who were set to be killed back to Black Moon. I hope that Blake keeps them alive long enough for them to annoy out of Graham. I will make sure that I mention that to him, to keep them alive for a while before he passes their sentences down to them. Blake let us in the SUV that the vampires were riding in to park the SUVs in his personal garage so they could enter the pack house without getting in the sunlight. I appreciate that he was thoughtful enough to do that. But I am sure it was because he was just not fully aware of the interest that Anton had in Cheryl just yet. I know that when he does realize it, he will no longer be willing to accept Anton inside his pack. But we will still have another hour and 15 minutes of driving to get back to our pack, and another 15 to 20 minutes after that, as their coven was further away than our pack was. I will make sure that we drive her there so she gets as much time with Anton as we can get for them. Alexei was much nicer about his brother being interested in Cheryl than any of us could have expected. Apparently, Anton had someone that he loved a long time ago, and she had been killed by Draven. It was part of the reason that Draven was banished. She was not either of their mates, but she was lured to Draven by all that he gave her. She was motivated by things, instead of the love and care that Anton gave her. Anton had just as much money as Draven did, it was just that he preferred someone to love him for him, not what he could give them. So she ended up with Draven, as Anton's love was not enough for her. I did not hear about what had happened to her. None of them had ever mentioned it to any of us, and we left it alone. We did not want to offend any of them over it. Anton shut himself off from the rest of them because of it. This happened over 100 years ago, and it was still a touchy subject, so we know something bad had to have happened. The vampires hung out upstairs outside of Blake's office. It was darker over there, with no windows and a lot of dark wood paneling, but close enough to the cells for them to get downstairs to us quickly if they were needed. Cheryl had received quite a few looks, as we entered the pack house, but with the size of our group, no one had the gall to say anything to her. At the top of the stairs, I stopped and told Max to wait upstairs. He wasn't happy with it, and said, "I can't go, but these 2 can." He was using his finger and motioning it back and forth between Blake and Anton. "Yes, Max, it is Blake's pack. He is the alpha here and it was kind of him to let us speak to Graham one last time. Anton can read minds. He is a human lie detector and we need him down there. Do not worry, we will take care of Cheryl. But she needs this closure too. The hallway down there is not that large, and there are already 10 of us going down there. It will be easier to just let us say what we need to say, and have less of an audience while doing it," I told him. I see his mouth thin out, and I could tell he wanted to argue more with me, when Brandon ended it by saying, "We will be back soon. It will be fine. We will take care of her." Max just nodded and stepped back to go sit down. We headed down the stairs to the cells, and I was stunned to see the large pictures of my mother hanging on the walls outside of his cell. Oh, I am sure that is going to piss him off, having to see former his mate staring back at him. Blake is really going to make Graham sorry for tearing him and Cheryl apart. Blake had gotten vicious now that he knew what Graham had done. He hasn't even put his hands on him yet, but the pictures and the women who had been complaining all night to him would soon return, and that would be very frustrating to him. I was glad that Regan had given me a heads up before we got here, that Blake had put our mother's pictures up, just out of Graham's reach. It was a shock to see her after 15 years apart. Blake led us down to Graham's cell. Brandon, Justin, Clive, Alexei, and Anton all stayed back at the start of the hallway, which was about 60 feet away from us, to give us some privacy. Graham was not happy to see Blake, but the look on his face as I stepped into view, with Cheryl right behind me, was almost comical. He was furious at us for being here. When he saw Reagan, followed by my father, Cole, he went straight to livid. "Why did you allow them into our packland, Blake? Did you bring Cole here to end me? Is that what you are playing here? Or is he picking me up to take me to the council, or to his own pack to be punished?" Graham yelled out in anger at us. When he said that, the hate in his voice was surprising to me. So I could not stop myself from calling him out on it. "What is up with all the hate there, Graham? Do you not realize that there is a common denominator in all of this? I know you have missed it, so I will go easy on you and let you know what is it. It is you, Graham, you are the problem. You are the problem for all of us. You punished me for 18 years, blaming me for your and Cassandra's own selfish actions. I never did anything to have earned the treatment that I received. You could have done what my dad had asked you to, and given me to him as soon as I was born. But you wanted someone around for you to punish to make yourself feel better. Do you? Do you feel better now, Graham? I wanted you to know that what you did is completely unconscionable, and disgusting. Do you realize how much different all our lives would have been if you had only done the right thing? How much pain and suffering could have been avoided? It was the fact that you are a vicious coward who cannot accept the blame that you earned and deserved. You caused this whole thing by taking my father's true mate, and lying to her, just like you do to everyone. You tricked her into coming, rejecting my father and leaving with you on the premise of her getting all the shiny things that she wanted. She was wrong to have made the choice to do that herself. She allowed herself to be charmed and swayed by a con man, and she got exactly what she deserved out of it. Decades in a horribly toxic relationship with a man who only cares about himself. You have ruined so many lives with your petty, selfish actions. I am glad to see that you will finally be getting your comeuppance. I am even more glad that one of your own victims will be the one to pass judgment and dispense justice to you. I cannot think of anyone that is more deserving of punishment than you, I told him, and I can feel my dad reach out for my hand to give me support. I refuse to cry in front of this odious man. I almost wish I could be here as justice was carried out, but I honestly do not want to ever see him again. I don't need to see it to know that Blake will do it. I am quite sure that Graham's life is about to become his own personal on earth. This is it. I will never voluntarily see him again, and I will get everything off my chest today. I know things will probably take a bad turn. Graham tries to push Blake into killing him, rather than making him suffer. Graham knows that he will be getting his just desert from Blake. We can all tell that Blake is truly furious at his being led into this whole situation when it never should have even occurred in the first place. You already know that you will be staying here, with me, until the day you die, Graham. They were just at Blood Tracker to help with the vampire problem and wanted to stop and say hi to you on their way back through, Blake told him. Well, I don't want to talk to any of these. So you can just take them out of here right now. I couldn't care less about what any of them have to say to me. Raven and Cheryl don't mean anything to me at all. Reagan used to mean something to me, but not anymore. She chose to support Blake, and not me, so I disowned her yesterday. I wouldn't have cared if she had been ripped apart, or taken last night by those awful bloodsuckers. What any of them want to say to me right now, does not have any bearing on me. They all got what was coming to them, and I couldn't care less about what they have to say, or their stupid feelings. I know in my heart that I loved and took care of my chosen mate. They're implying that I was at fault for her death, simply isn't true. Cassandra's blood is only on Cheryl's hands, not mine. I sleep just fine at night, and I will not allow you to drag my good name into this. Cheryl did what she did because she is a killer and a terrible Luna. What you are alleging about me is speculation. Cheryl is just trying to feel better about killing 3 innocent people. But she won't feel better because she doesn't deserve to. She was totally at fault for their deaths. I mean, she is so worthless, that even her parents turned on her, 2 Graham said, and the hallway is silent for a few beats with the nerve he has to say that to her. He is vicious to the end, and I hope he suffers a great deal at Blake's hands. You are the vilest person that I have ever dealt with in my life. I will start praying to the goddess that the punishments that Blake gives you are truly worthy of you. You are without a doubt like a pile of slime stuck to someone's shoe that refuses to be scraped off. Just absolutely detestable, and I wish you a long and unbearably awful life. I hope that the goddess has no mercy on you when you do die. I hope that whatever pain you feel in receiving your punishment comes back to you tenfold, I told him. I have never hated someone as much as I hate him in my life. He refuses to admit his wrongdoing. It is always others who do wrong, never him. He gets them to do his dirty work, thinking that it keeps his hands clean. It doesn't. Whether you plant the idea in someone's head and lead them to where you want them to be, or he pulled the trigger himself, he is still culpable in it. He just deludes himself into thinking that he has no fault because others carry it out. He is wrong. Raven is right, you started this whole thing rolling, Graham. Reagan scoffed at using his given name. You used me to give Raven a hard time. You pitted us against each other since we were children. You rewarded me for hurting Raven. You played me in this, as you knew that I wanted to be the Luna for Sliver Blade, making me do as you wanted, to get the payoff that I wanted. You hurt a young girl, one who didn't have a friend in the world. When she would make one, we tore them away from her. She had no one and nothing, and guess what, Dad? The goddess paid me back for it. Nothing escapes her sight. She sees it all. She knew what was done in the shadows, and if you think that she isn't planning on giving you a taste of what both Raven and I got, think again. I am sure it is coming, and the goddess will be doing it with a smile on her face. She already punished you there, Dad, remember? All the tries you made to have a son, one to take over the pack, but it never worked out. Why do you think that happened, when there was nothing physically wrong with either of you? That was your warning from her, but you never stopped. Did you never consider that it was payback for all the st you did? You are a despicable man, who thinks nothing of tearing a family apart. What you did to their son Kevin, I have no words for. I am a mother now, and I swear to you, Graham, I would have made you suffer in the same way. To kill you would have been too easy, with no real punishment involved for you. This though, it comes with a daily punishment for you, a loss that tugs at your heart as you miss her every day. Even if you can't bring yourself to admit it, you killed her, as surely as we are all standing here today. I can guarantee you this, Graham. After you do die, I am absolutely positive that the goddess herself will want to have a long talk with you. I pray that Mom is there too, so she can tell you what a piece of crap you are, in her own words. So she can tell you herself, that she had to die to pay the price for your loathsome plans. Mom knew what you had done, she knew the whole thing, before she died. She knew you drugged her too, and I am sure that will be another conversation for you three to have as well. She was a descendant of the moon goddess. I am sure that there will be penalties for deceiving Mom, cheating on Mom, and drugging her to get her to sleep with you. I know for a fact that she had to be so disappointed in you as she took her last breath, Regan said to him, and although her words were harsh, she was telling the truth, and we all agreed with her on it. I refuse to talk to them anymore. I don't even want to look at them, Graham said, and he turned away so he wouldn't have to look at us. I heard a snort of laughter from beside me and realized that Cheryl was the one who had snorted. That makes two of us, Cheryl told him. This time Regan and I snorted in laughter. I refuse to speak to you, you are a disgusting she-wolf, and were never fit to become a Luna. Regan had been raised from birth to be one. Blake made a mistake choosing you over her. You will never be worth anything, and even your parents turned on you. Life must really suck for you right now, Graham said, and we looked at each other and laughed. Why are you laughing? Graham asked through gritted teeth as he got up from his bed and approached the bars of his cell. If he thought that he was intimidating any of us, he was wrong. You said that you refused to speak to her, and then you just kept on talking. No one can even take you seriously right now. Seems like you are really losing it after you got my mother killed by your vicious actions, I told him. Regan and I had discussed it and we were going to work him up with our words. I wanted him to know that everything he allowed the pack to do to me, didn't work. I am exactly as the goddess wanted me to be. Did I have it hard in his pack? I sure did. But the goddess had reminded me that I needed to have those experiences to mold me into being a good Luna to my own pack. One who leads with humility and integrity. One who understands and wants the very best for the people of her pack. No matter what you all say, she killed your mother, not me. That BH took it too far and killed my sweet Cassandra. No matter what, if it is the last thing that I do, I will kill you, Cheryl, for what you did to her, Graham yelled at Cheryl. Before the growl ripped free of Blake's chest, Anton was at the bars with a speed so fast none of us saw him coming. He had his hand around Graham's neck and started to choke him as he snarled out, "You will never be putting your nasty hands on her. I will not allow it. You would be dead before your body hit the floor. Or if you want to pay for more such audiobooks, you can send us a request in a private Facebook group, or join us on WhatsApp, a link is given in the video description. The rest of the audiobooks will be uploaded in the next episode. Join us on Patreon to listen to more unlimited audiobooks.